where nothing matters, but everything is technically true. Today's compilation includes facts you didn't ask for and still won't believe. So sit back, question reality, and prepare to waste your time in the most educational way possible. You weren't supposed to find this video, but now that you're here, you might as well ruin your day. I've gathered 199 facts so twisted, they'll make you question what you thought you knew about the world, and once you start, you won't stop.
So many questions. Why is the world spinning? Why is the moon keeping its orbit? Can rockets fly backwards? The facts you didn't know you needed. The Useless Show.
Imagine being born, then having to wait nearly 3 months for your twin to arrive. That actually happened. One twin was born, and the second took 87 more days to show up. Doctors had to keep the second baby safe inside for as long as possible. Same parents, same birthday story, just stretched across seasons. You might have written it wrong your whole life, but there's no dot in Dr. Pepper. It was removed from the logo because the old font made it look weird, like it said D Pepej Kicker, so the period had to go. Now it's just Dr. Pepper, no pause, all fizz. There's a real sport where players wrestle underwater while holding their breath. It's called underwater rugby. 2 teams of 6 dive and fight for a weighted ball in a swimming pool, trying to score goals at the bottom. It's like rugby, but wetter, heavier, and way more intense. Standing around doing absolutely nothing still burns calories. If you weigh about average, you're burning over 100 calories per hour just by existing upright. So next time someone tells you to do something productive, tell them, I'm already working. My body's on fire, in the laziest way possible. You don't pay a single penny to use GPS, but behind the scenes, it costs millions every single day to keep those satellites up and running. American taxes cover it, so you can get pizza without getting lost. GPS is the world's most expensive gift, and you use it to find them all. During the Second World War, Germany dropped millions of fake British banknotes over London. The goal? Crash the economy and turn people's money into worthless paper. It was a financial bomb raid, sneaky, silent, and devastating. Britain dodged bullets and bogus bills at the same time. Since the 70s, Playboy has released Braille editions of their magazine. No photos, just the articles. Seriously, the iconic brand gave blind readers access to its written content, which means someone somewhere was reading Playboy for the articles. Literally. In the game Space Invaders, more enemies on screen made the system lag, and the creator kept it that way on purpose. The slowdown made the game harder as you progressed, turning a technical issue into a feature. What began as a glitch became genius-level game design. Bulls don't hate red. In fact, they don't even see it. Bulls are colorblind, so the waving red cloth is just a blurry object flapping in their face. It's not the color, it's the motion that gets them fired up. The bull doesn't care about fashion, just frustration. Most people are right-handed, but among autistic children, being left-handed is way more common. While about 1 in 10 people are left-handed in general, among autistic kids, it's closer to 2/3. It's a brain-body twist that scientists are still trying to fully understand. Herringfish are polite talkers, but they use gas to communicate. No joke, they let out little bursts of flatulence that create sounds underwater. It's not rude, it's science. These fish literally talk with their butts. Ocean gossip has never sounded so bubbly. For years, singing Happy Birthday in public could cost you money. That simple tune was copyrighted until 2016. Want to use it in a movie? Pay a fee. A party scene? Pay again. Only after a legal battle did it finally become free for everyone to sing. There was once a punctuation mark meant to show sarcasm. It looked like a backwards question mark. Invented over 100 years ago, it never caught on. So, now we just rely on tone, emojis, or that annoying /s to hint we're joking. Maybe we need to bring it back. During one cremation, the body being burned was so overweight, it set the entire crematorium on fire. The excess fat ignited, and the blaze got out of control. No one expected a funeral fire to need a fire extinguisher. It was tragic, and a terrifying lesson in heat and human chemistry. Flossing might help you remember where you left your keys. Researchers found that healthy gums mean healthier blood flow to the brain. So by flossing, you're not just saving your teeth, you're preventing stiff arteries that hurt memory. Dental care just got way more important. When George Washington died, Napoleon Bonaparte himself gave a eulogy and ordered France to mourn for 10 days. That's right. The French emperor paused history to honor an American icon. Across oceans and politics, greatness recognizes greatness. The first edition of The Hobbit was different from the one you know. In the original version, Gollum happily offered the ring as a prize during the riddle game. No screaming, no obsession. Just a weird creature playing fair. Tolkien later rewrote it to match the darker story of The Lord of the Rings. Texas had no official state flag for almost 60 years. From the late 1800s to the early 1900s, they just casually used the Lone Star flag without ever declaring it official. It was the unofficial official symbol of Texas swagger, bold and informal just like the state itself. One guy actually calculated how much wood a woodchuck could chuck, if it really could. He estimated the number by looking at dirt a woodchuck digs and comparing it to wood. Final answer? About 700 pounds. That's a lot of imaginary lumber from a rodent that doesn't chuck anything. Red Solo cups became a must-have souvenir for tourists visiting America. Why? Because they show up in almost every party scene in American movies. They're not just drinkware, they're pop culture icons. A plastic cup became a symbol of the ultimate cinematic house party. Those Swedish meatballs you eat at IKEA, they're actually Turkish. The recipe came from Turkey, brought back by King Charles XII in the early 1800s. Sweden just rebranded it so well that no one noticed. International food theft? Deliciously done. There's only one country on Earth named after a woman, Saint Lucia. Named in honor of Saint Lucy by French colonizers, it stands alone as a feminine symbol on the map. All the other nations got names from tribes, gods, or kings. Saint Lucia, she got her own island. Scientists found actual sharks living inside an active underwater volcano. That's right. Lava, heat, and pressure. And these guys are still swimming around like it's a hot tub. Divers can't even get close. These sharks are living proof that nature doesn't care about your rules. Between the late 70s and the late 90s, Pluto came closer to the Sun than Neptune. Their orbits crossed paths, and for about 20 years, the ninth planet actually moved inward. Pluto had a rare moment in the spotlight before it got kicked out of the Planet Club. There's a town in Nebraska with a population of 1. Just one woman lives there. She's the mayor, the bartender, the librarian, basically the queen of everything. The entire town is her personal empire. Population, 1. Power, infinite. The Ethiopian calendar runs 7.5 years behind the rest of the world. It has been 13 months and celebrates New Year in September. While you're living in one year, Ethiopians are still in another. It's like time travel by culture, where their past is your present. And it's completely normal. In the mid-90s, the company holding the GIF patent tried to charge people for using them. The internet wasn't having it. Developers responded by creating the PNG image format as a free alternative. Faced with a digital rebellion, the company backed off. That's how one picture war almost broke the web. Legend says pretzels were invented by a monk in Italy who wanted to reward children for learning prayers. He twisted dough to look like arms crossed in prayer and called it pretiola, meaning little rewards. So every time you eat a pretzel, remember, you're chewing on a holy snack of victory. The Philippine eagle is so massive it stretches nearly the size of a toddler from beak to tail. This bird doesn't just fly, it rules the sky. And yes, it eats monkeys. That's how serious it is. It's the jungle's feathered boss, and it's got the wingspan to prove it. Sepia ink, the brownish color used in art and writing, isn't just a random tone. It's actually made from cuttlefish. The animal produces a rich brown fluid that artists once used as ink. So if your drawings look deep and vintage, thank a squid. Art supplies used to come with tentacles. Eurytion of Phegalia was a Greek fighter who died in the middle of a match, but still won. While being choked, he delivered one final kick that made his opponent surrender in pain, right as Eurytion died. Judges declared him the winner posthumously. That's the most hardcore victory in Olympic history. Antarctica has no snakes, no lizards, and no reptiles at all. The freezing cold wipes out any scaly creature before it can slither. Every other continent has reptiles hiding somewhere, but not Antarctica. It's the one place on Earth where snakes fear to tread. Scaphism was one of the most horrific tortures ever invented. Victims were trapped between boats and force-fed milk and honey until insects swarmed their bodies and slowly ate them alive. It came from ancient Persia and was designed to be as long, painful, and humiliating as possible. Nature became the executioner. The famous Windows XP wallpaper, green hill, blue sky, wasn't computer generated. It's a real photo called Bliss, taken by Charles O'Rear in California. No filters, no edits, just a lucky snap on a perfect day. And it became one of the most viewed images in history, staring from billions of screens worldwide. John Glenn, the first American to orbit Earth, also made history by being the first American to eat in space. His meal, applesauce from a squeeze tube, floating through the galaxy, tasting sweet mush from a bag. That's one small bite for man, one weird snack for mankind. Your fingerprint has around 40 unique traits, but your eye's iris? Over 250. That's why retina scanners are overtaking fingerprint locks. The patterns in your eye are practically impossible to copy. Your eyes really are the windows to your identity. Before he became a rap icon, Tupac was in ballet tights. He studied jazz, acting, poetry, and even performed as the Mouse King in the Nutcracker. He wasn't just about street beats. He had a deep, artistic side that danced to its own rhythm. In China, they don't just copy products. They've built entire clone towns. They rebuilt an exact replica of an Austrian village called Hallstatt, down to the architecture and church. Now, you can visit Austria without leaving China. The skill is so precise, even the original village was impressed. Ruth Bader Ginsburg didn't just wear a robe, she had a whole collection of lace collars called jabots from around the world. Each one sent a message. Bold, elegant, and sometimes rebellious. Her jabots were more than fashion. They were armor made of lace. That extra belt strap that hangs loose after you buckle, it actually has a name. It's called the lattice. It sounds fancy, but it's just that little flappy tail you tuck into a loop. Next time it annoys you, remember, it's not just annoying. It has an identity. Peacocks aren't just about looks. They can fly. Despite dragging those massive feather trains, they can still flap into trees or rooftops. Their flights are short but dramatic, like feathery fireworks exploding into the sky. Nature didn't just make them pretty, it made them powerful. Bottlenose dolphins have memories sharper than most humans. They can remember the unique whistles of other dolphins they once lived with, even after 20 years of separation. That's longer than most people remember their school friends. Dolphins? More loyal than your childhood buddy. There's a real museum in Iceland filled entirely with penises. Over 200 of them, from mammals across the world, including one from a human. It's not a joke, it's science, history, and a lot of awkward laughter. Welcome to Reykjavik's weirdest tourist attraction. The first American steam train once lost a race to a horse. The train broke down midway and the horse trotted past like it was no big deal. At that moment, steam power had to admit defeat to horsepower. Technology doesn't always win. There's a real island called Just Enough Room, and that's exactly what it has. Barely enough land for one tree and one tiny house. You can walk across it in 2 steps. It's the world's most adorable territory, perfect for introverts and hermits. A group of unicorns is called a blessing. That's right. If you ever spot a magical herd of horned horses, now you know what to say. A blessing of unicorns. Makes sense, right? Because if that ever happens, you've clearly been blessed by the universe. Mob boss Vincent Gigante had a bizarre way of staying out of jail. He'd wander the streets of New York in his bathrobe, muttering nonsense, pretending to be insane. The cops thought he lost his mind, when in reality he was outsmarting them with an act straight from Broadway. And finally, there's a town in India called Santa Claus. No sleighs, no reindeer, just the name. It's one of those wild geographical curveballs that makes you double-check the map. If anyone asks where Santa lives, you can now say, in India, obviously. Wimbledon players aren't allowed to swear no matter how intense the match. That means line judges have to memorize curse words in dozens of languages just to catch violations. If you scream in frustration, better hope it's not a global insult, because someone in a striped shirt knows what you just said. In Berlin, people turned sitting into a sport. It's called aggressive sitting, and yes, it's a real competition. You can even buy a special stool made for it. They flip, hop, and balance like extreme yoga chairs. Next time someone says you're lazy for sitting down, tell them you're training professionally. Got bad breath? A cucumber might save your day. Holding a cucumber slice on the roof of your mouth for a minute can kill the bacteria causing stink. It's like a silent breath freshener disguised as salad. Nature's little green mouthwash. Crunchy and cool. Neptune wasn't spotted through a telescope first. Mathematicians noticed something weird in Uranus's orbit and predicted another planet was out there. When scientists looked where the math pointed, boom, there it was. Neptune became the first planet discovered using numbers, not eyeballs. Algebra won the space race. Crows are terrifyingly smart. They can recognize human faces and remember them for years. Be nice to one, and it might bring you gifts. Mess with it, and it'll tell its friends. You don't want to be on a crow's hit list. They literally hold grudges. She Sells Seashells isn't just a tongue twister. It's based on Mary Anning, a real paleontologist from the 1800s. She dug up dinosaur bones and sold fossil shells by the shore. So every time you stumble over that rhyme, you're actually reciting prehistoric street sales history. The official sport of Maryland is jousting. Knights in shining armor on horses with lances. Not football, not basketball. Jousting. It's been that way for decades. Somewhere in Maryland, a guy might be putting on a helmet, grabbing a lance, and yelling, "Charge!" All in the name of state pride. Those creepy witch recipe ingredients, eye of newt, toe of frog, aren't actual body parts. They're just old names for herbs. Eye of newt, mustard seed. Toe of frog, buttercup. Wool of bats, holly leaves. The witches were just making fancy salads with spooky names. In North Korea, your haircut isn't up to you. The government allows only 28 approved styles, 14 for men and 14 for women. Want a mohawk or pink highlights? Not a chance. Your hair says obedient citizen, not free expression. Even though smoking on airplanes is banned, every plane still has ashtrays. Why? Because if someone breaks the rule, there needs to be a safe place to stub out the cigarette. It's a weird leftover from the past, like putting a bucket under a fire alarm. More people now die taking selfies than from shark attacks. Cliff edges, rooftops, train tracks. Selfies have become the ultimate danger zone. So, next time you lean out for that perfect angle, remember, the shark isn't the one you should fear. Your camera is. Before Pope Francis became the head of the Catholic Church, he was a nightclub bouncer. Yep, he used to work the door deciding who got into the party. From velvet ropes to holy robes, his path to the Vatican started with saying, "You're not on the list." If you're afraid of opinions, you have a real condition called allodoxophobia. It's rare, but legit. Just the idea of someone sharing their thoughts can send a person into panic. For them, debates aren't conversations, they're psychological horror films. The US government once gave a university $1 million to study memes. Yes, memes. Those goofy pictures with text got academic funding. Indiana University researched how memes spread like viruses through the internet. Your favorite cat gif? That's federally funded science now. If you secretly crave raw potatoes, you might have a condition called geomelophagia. It's not common, but some people really want to bite into a potato like an apple. No fries, no chips, just that cold, crunchy rawness. Taste buds have their own strange cravings. The most leaves ever found on a single clover? 56. That's right. Way past the lucky 4. It looked more like a tiny green explosion than a plant. If luck came in layers, that clover was winning the jackpot 20 times over. Porcupines float. Even with all those quills, they can stay bobbing in water. It's like nature made them part balloon, part cactus. You might picture them sinking like rocks, but nope. They're nature's spiky little boats, paddling through ponds like prickly marshmallows. Pigeons have helped save lives. The U.S. Coast Guard trained them to spot people lost at sea. Their eyesight is sharper than ours, and they could spot colored life vests from above. So when your drone battery dies, maybe send a pigeon next time. The world's first phone book only had 50 names. Published in the 1800s, it was a single page long. No area codes, no texting, no spam calls. Just a tiny list of people and a big dream of connection. Smart people aren't afraid to disagree. If I missed something or got it wrong, challenge me in the comments. Iron sharpens iron. You don't have to be a lawyer to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court. There's no official requirement. You could be a poet or a plumber, as long as the president appoints you and the Senate agrees. Law school? Optional. Power? Unlimited. In the mid-1800s, a man walked across Niagara Falls on a tightrope. With nothing but a balance pole, he crossed the roaring water on a wire, calmly making history. One slip would have ended everything, but he made it, because nerves of steel weigh nothing. Before 1687, clocks didn't have minute hands. They only had an hour hand. Time was rough and rounded, no rush. no seconds ticking by. Imagine living in a world where "I'll be there around 2" really meant any time between 2 and 3. Punctuality hadn't been invented yet. Play some music for your cows, and they'll give you more milk. Classical, jazz, even soft pop makes them feel calm and cozy. Stressed cows hold back, but happy cows go full dairy mode. So the next time you see a farmer with a speaker in the barn, they're not crazy. They're clever. New York City has more French restaurants than Paris. That's right, the Big Apple serves more croissants than the capital of croissants itself. It's like France packed up its kitchen and moved across the ocean. Bon appetit, New York style. A meteor slammed into Earth's atmosphere in 2018, exploding with 10 times the power of the Hiroshima bomb. But no one noticed. Until after it happened. Even NASA missed it at first. That's how vast and unpredictable the sky is. Sometimes space throws a punch, and we don't even flinch. Dim lights don't just set the mood. They mess with your hunger. Studies show that when the lights are low, your appetite drops. That cozy dinner vibe might be tricking your brain into thinking you're full sooner. So if you're watching your diet, maybe dim the lights and trick your stomach. China covers 5 time zones worth of land, but only uses 1. From Beijing to the far west, everyone lives on the same clock. That means in some places, sunrise comes at 10 in the morning. It's like time got squashed into one government-approved schedule. In ancient Rome, lemons were believed to be the cure for everything poisonous. Got bit by something? Eat a lemon. Drank the wrong potion? Lemon it up. Roman logic said sour fruit equals survival. Maybe that's why we still trust lemon water to cleanse us today. No other child has ever been elected president of the United States. All of them had siblings. Maybe growing up with brothers and sisters teaches you the politics of sharing toys, winning arguments, and surviving family dinners, essential training for running a country. Once upon a time, ketchup wasn't a condiment. It was medicine. In the 1800s, doctors sold it as a cure for indigestion. People took tomato extract to feel better, not to dunk fries. From Remedy to Burger Buddy, ketchup's career change was deliciously strange. The last letter added to the English alphabet was J. It didn't exist in Latin and wasn't officially used until the 1700s. Before that, it was often just a fancy way of writing I. So next time you write juice, remember, you're using the alphabet's youngest rebel. Egyptian pharaohs believed cabbage was a hangover shield. Before a night of royal drinking, they'd eat piles of it, hoping it would soak up the booze. This ancient trick is why cabbage and vinegar are still considered hangover remedies. History really loves fermented vegetables. The closest living relative of the mighty T-Rex isn't a crocodile or lizard, it's a chicken. That terrifying dinosaur shares ancestry with the bird you eat for dinner. So yes, your fried drumstick once had a distant roaring cousin that ruled the planet. Skulls of Neanderthals show cleanly picked teeth, hinting they used tools like toothpicks. One ancient ruler, Agathocles of Syracuse, actually died after using a poisoned one. Someone soaked it without his knowledge. Death by dental hygiene. History has never been sneakier. The tiniest insects in the world are fairy flies. They belong to the wasp family and are smaller than a grain of sand, just 0.5 millimeter long. You could fit a few dozen on your fingernail. They're real, and they're like flying specks of dust with wings. In the late 1940s, a biologist in Louisiana was eating breakfast when the waitress calmly told him that fish were falling from the sky. And they were. A rainstorm had picked them up and dropped them like scaly raindrops. That morning, the menu became freshly caught. You're old enough to know value when you see it. So subscribe. Not for me, for yourself. You've seen Roman numerals before. I for 1, V for 5. So why do clocks often show 4 as 3 eyes instead of 4? It's an old design choice, mostly for balance and symmetry. The ancient rules bent to make your clock look prettier. Before becoming president, Abraham Lincoln had only one recorded wrestling loss out of nearly 300 matches. He was tall, strong, and strategic, like a log-splitting ninja. One small-town champion turned into a national icon with a killer takedown and a stovepipe hat. The firefighter's story started in ancient Rome under Emperor Augustus. Organized firefighting brigades were formed to keep the city from burning. Before that, even ancient Egypt had water crews. Firefighting wasn't born in red trucks. It rose from buckets and sand in history's hottest places. Technically, you can pass your hand through a wall. The probability is so tiny it might never happen, but quantum mechanics says it's not zero. Your atoms and the wall's atoms could align just right. Eventually. So yes, you're part ghost, but don't try it unless you like bruises. Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus holds the crown for highest body count in his plays. Heads fly, limbs fall, and nearly everyone dies. It's the Elizabethan version of a horror film. If you thought Hamlet was dramatic, wait until you count the corpses in Titus. The biggest number you can write in Roman numerals is 3,999. After that, the Roman system gives up. No 4,000, no 5,000. The empire that built roads and armies never thought to build numbers past that. Smell is your brain's best memory keeper. One whiff of something familiar can launch you into a forgotten moment. That's because smells hit the emotional part of your brain first, faster than sight or sound. So, the scent of rain or old books, time travel in a sniff. When a new planet was discovered, grown-up scientists argued over names like Zeus and Minerva. But it was an 11-year-old girl named Venetia who suggested Pluto after the Roman god of the underworld. The adults listened, and she named a planet from her school desk. President Theodore Roosevelt owned a pet hyena named Bill. It was a gift from an Ethiopian emperor, and he kept it at the White House. Roosevelt's private zoo also included snakes, bears, and even a badger. The man loved wild animals more than most people love dogs. A day on Venus lasts longer than a year. It spins so slowly that it completes one full rotation after it finishes a full orbit around the sun. So if you lived there, you'd celebrate your birthday before finishing a single sunrise. Venus is time-bending chaos. The world's tallest sandcastle was built in Germany, towering over 50 feet high. It took over 100 trucks and more than a week just to pile up the sand. Sculptors worked day and night, turning the beach into a palace that could humble kings and collapse with one sneeze. Earth isn't a perfect sphere. It's squashed at the poles and bulging at the equator, like someone sat on a basketball and forgot to fix it. This shape is called an oblate spheroid. So when you say the world is round, you're mostly right, but not perfectly. The U.S. Supreme Court has a private basketball court on its top floor. It's nicknamed the highest court in the land. Judges and clerks have shot hoops just a few feet above where the biggest legal decisions in America are made. Justice with jump shots. Snails can sleep for 3 years straight. That's not laziness, that's survival. When things get too dry or harsh, they just shut down, hibernate, and wait. So if you think your naps are long, remember the snail. It doesn't just snooze, it goes into full shutdown mode like a slimy computer. After retiring, President Eisenhower's Secret Service codename became Scorecard. Why? Because the man loved golf. If he wasn't leading the free world, he was lining up putts. So they gave him a codename that fit right in on the green. Politics or pudding, he kept score like a champion. And Indonesia isn't just one country. It's over 17,000 islands stitched together. Volcanoes, jungles, cities, beaches. Each island has its own vibe. If you visited one a day, it would take you almost 50 years to see them all. It's not just a country, it's a universe of islands. The Great Barrier Reef stretches over 1,600 miles and is made by living creatures. Tiny coral organisms built the largest structure on Earth that's alive. From space, it looks like a ribbon of color hugging the ocean. It's the world's biggest biological team project. In 2009, scientists searching for the Loch Ness Monster came up empty, but they did find 100,000 golf balls. Turns out, people had been using the legendary lake as a secret driving range. No monster, just a sea of bad swings. St. Patrick never drove snakes out of Ireland. Science says there were never any snakes to begin with. The Ice Age made sure of that, freezing them out long before the legend began. The story? Total myth. The snake drama was just poetic flair. The word ketchup comes from an old Chinese word ketchup, meaning a spiced fish sauce. That's right, your burger's best friend started as fermented seafood. Over time, tomatoes replaced fish, but the name stuck. So your fries are swimming in centuries of history. The Eiffel Tower actually shrinks in winter. Cold weather tightens the iron, making the tower a few inches shorter than in summer. It's like the whole thing tenses up in the cold, just like you do when you forget your jacket. Cats are vocal pros. They've got over 100 vocal cords, letting them purr, yowl, chirp, and meow in ways that manipulate humans flawlessly. That meow you just heard? It was designed to get exactly what they want, whether it's food, cuddles, or dominance. Johnny Eck was born in the early 1900s with only half a body, but lived twice his life. He became an honor student, a racer, a performer, a painter, even a movie actor. Doctors said he wouldn't live long. He made it to 79 years and made every second count. Sunsets on Mars glow blue instead of orange. The planet's dusty air filters out red and yellow light, leaving behind a cool blue shine at dusk. So when Martians watch the sun dip below the horizon, they don't see fire. They see ice. Termites jam harder to rock music. For real, they chew through wood twice as fast when it's playing. Researchers tested it and found these tiny pests love to shred when the riffs get loud. Your walls aren't safe if someone blasts the classics. A snail doesn't breathe like we do, it breathes through its foot. That slimy part sliding across your garden, it's full of air holes and tiny tubes. Nature looked at snails and said, yeah, let's put the lungs in the feet. Evolution has jokes. Fish actually cough, not because they're sick, but to clean out their gills. It's more like a reset button for their breathing system. So if you ever see a goldfish do a sudden twitch and gulp, it just cleared its throat underwater. An ant's sense of smell is sharper than a dog's. These tiny insects can sniff out food, enemies, and even chemical trails with mind-blowing accuracy. They don't have noses, but their antennae are like supercharged sniffers. Every crumb, every signal, it's all in the air for them. You can lead a cow up a staircase, but it won't come back down. Their knees just don't work that way. So if you're planning a farm-themed prank involving a rooftop cow, prepare for some awkward rescue logistics. Frogs can't swallow unless they blink. Their eyes actually press down through their skull to help push food into their throats. So, every time a frog eats, it has to close its eyes. It's like saying a prayer before every bite. A cat's lower jaw can't move sideways. That's why they struggle with big, chewy food. Their jaws only go up and down, perfect for crunching, but useless for side biting. Next time you see your cat chewing weirdly, blame evolution's design choices. The bullfrog never sleeps. Unlike most creatures, it doesn't go into full rest mode. Its body just stays alert, always halfway on. The bullfrog lives on edge, like a soldier on eternal guard duty. Sleep is for the weak, unless you're literally any other animal. Ancient Chinese nobles used to carry tiny Pekingese puppies inside their sleeves. These royal lapdogs were fashion accessories, snuggle buddies, and symbols of status. Forget purses. Back then, your coat came with a built-in pocket pet. A tarantula can go over 2 years without eating. It just sits in its lair, waiting, patient, calm, starving, but fine with it. Imagine having that kind of chill. You miss lunch and start yelling. Tarantulas skip 200 lunches and don't blink. Ethiopia runs 7 years behind the rest of the world. They use a different calendar that splits the year into 13 months. So technically, they're still in the past, according to us. Or maybe we're just too obsessed with future deadlines. In Denmark, you can't just name your baby anything. You have to pick from a list of 7,000 government-approved names. Want to name your kid Dragon? Sorry, not allowed. Want to call them Lars? Go for it. The name game is serious business there. Every single tweet posted by Americans is archived by the Library of Congress. That includes the funny ones, the embarrassing ones, and yes, the typos. Your midnight pizza rant? It's in the national records. The internet never forgets, and neither does history. Drinking too much water can kill you. It's called water intoxication, and it happens when your salt levels drop too low. One marathon runner drank so much her body shut down. It's a reminder that even something good, like water, can go very, very wrong. In 1812, an earthquake made the Mississippi River flow backward. For a few wild minutes, nature broke all the rules. Boats went the wrong way. Water rushed upstream. It was the earth saying, I do what I want. Physics paused for a jaw-dropping glitch. If someone loses their sight later in life, they can still see dreams. That's because their brain remembers visuals from before. But those born blind, their dreams are filled with sound, touch, and emotion, but no images. Dreams speak the language you were raised with. Australia has some of the longest, straightest, most mind-numbing roads in the world. To keep drivers awake, they put up road signs with trivia questions. Drive a few miles, and the answer appears. It's the world's weirdest quiz show, and the prize is staying alive. When India got split apart, the land we now call Bangladesh didn't exist with that name. Back then, it was called East Pakistan. It stayed that way for years until the people finally decided they wanted their own identity, their own nation. That's when East Pakistan became what we proudly know today, Bangladesh. Before Julie Andrews became the queen of charming voices, she stepped onto the big screen for the first time in a movie called Mary Poppins. That role wasn't just magical, it made her win the biggest acting award in the world. Imagine your very first try making you a superstar forever. Helicopters usually have a spinning tail, but there's this special kind that doesn't need one. It's called a twin-rotor helicopter. Instead of one, it has two huge blades spinning in opposite directions, like a battle dance in the sky. This keeps the whole machine balanced without needing anything at the back. Hindi isn't just spoken in India, it's like a giant language that travels across hearts. So many people speak it as their first language that it ranks among the top few most spoken in the world. It's like the voice of a huge family stretching across continents and generations. Hit that like button if this content didn't insult your intelligence. In ancient myths from Greece and Rome, there was this strange tree called the lotus. But it wasn't just about the fruit, it was magical. If you ate it, you'd forget about everything else. You'd stop caring, stop worrying, just floating in lazy happiness forever. Basically, a snack that made you chill way too hard. Margaret Bourke-White was no ordinary woman with a camera. During the giant World War, she got to go right into battle zones with soldiers. She was the only outsider clicking photos in Moscow when the Nazis came storming in. She wasn't just brave, she made the war visible to the whole world. Some goldfish live a boring life in glass bowls. But one little guy proved he had the heart of a warrior. He kept swimming, eating, and blinking for more than 4 decades. That's longer than many dogs, cats, and even people live. He became the golden legend of the fish world. There was a time when only women could serve you peanuts and tell you how to buckle your seatbelt on a flight. Seriously, being a flight attendant was not allowed for men. That unfair rule was finally destroyed in court during the early 70s, and flying the skies got a little more equal. The emoji wasn't just born out of nowhere. A guy named Shigetaka Kurita made them while working on Japan's first mobile internet system. He thought, why not let people show feelings with pictures? And boom. Now every text has hearts, poop faces, and crying cats. Thank him for making chats way more fun. In subway tunnels, there's a hidden rail called the third rail. It's full of electric power and gives trains their juice to move. But touch it, and zap. It's deadly. That's why in politics, people call dangerous topics third rails. Say the wrong thing, and your career might be instantly fried. Stratigraphy sounds like a super serious word, but it's actually pretty cool. It's all about studying layers of dirt and rock. Imagine the Earth like a giant cake. Each layer tells a story about what happened long ago. It's like time traveling, but with mud and fossils, instead of a time machine. When a king named Richard III died in battle, a new guy named Henry stepped in. Henry became the first king of the famous Tudor family. He changed the game in England, married a smart woman named Elizabeth, and started a line of rulers that would shake the whole kingdom. The justice system in America used to be messy. The attorney general was doing too much alone, so they created a whole department to help him out, kind of like giving the class monitor an entire squad. That's how the Department of Justice came to be, to fight crime with more muscle. If you've ever heard a referee blow a whistle that nearly shattered your ears, it was probably the Acme Thunderer. That little thing isn't just loud, it's famous. Coaches, referees, and even movie people love it. One tiny puff into that whistle and you've got everyone's attention, no matter where you are. Imagine being a bird and skipping meals for months. That's what emperor penguins do. While protecting their eggs in the freezing cold, the dads just stand there in snowstorms, stomachs empty, not eating for weeks. They're like the ultimate bodyguards of the animal kingdom. Fluffy, waddly, but totally hardcore. The movie Up in Smoke may look silly now, but back then it was a wild ride. It didn't cost much to make, but it ended up making huge piles of money. 2 guys, just goofing around, accidentally created the first ever stoner comedy, and boom, it became a cult favorite people still quote today. Triage isn't just a fancy word from France. It's a life-saving system used in emergencies. Doctors and nurses use it to decide who needs help first. It's like lining up at school, but for survival. The worst injuries go to the front of the line, because every second can mean the difference between life and death. In the wild world of Greek myths, the goddess Athena didn't arrive the usual way. She just popped out of Zeus's head, not from a belly or a cradle, from his forehead, fully grown and fully armored. She skipped babyhood and came into the world like, I'm ready to fight right now. Mad cow disease sounds like a prank, but it's scary real. It's caused by a tiny, twisted protein that behaves like a villain. Instead of helping the brain, it turns it into mush. Cows go weird, then people too. It's proof that even the smallest thing can break the biggest creature. The Eiffel Tower once had a serious rival. When it was built, everyone thought it was unbeatable. But then came the Chrysler Building, trying to steal the title of tallest. For a while, it worked. Then the Eiffel Tower added a new antenna and snatched the crown right back. Tower drama is real. Going slower than traffic sounds safe, right? Nope. If a car creeps along 5 miles under everyone else, it actually causes more crashes than speeding a little. It's like walking backwards in a crowd. You mess up the flow and boom, accidents happen. So sometimes, slow isn't safer. It's sneakier and more dangerous. In a tiny country named Andorra, people speak a language you probably never hear on TV. It's called Catalan. It's also the second most spoken language in Spain. It's like a secret code shared by a group of proud people, keeping their culture alive through every word they speak. A gin and tonic sounds all grown up and fancy, but it's just a mix of two things: gin and fizzy tonic water. Add a little lime, and that's it. Simple, right? But this simple drink has been clinking in glasses for generations, refreshing people with bubbles and a tiny zing. Mother Teresa wasn't always called that. She was born with the name Angeza Gongse Bojakshu in a small country called Albania. She grew up, left everything behind, and gave her life to helping the poorest of the poor. Her real name may be hard to say, but her kindness was easy to see. There's a story in the Bible where a really hungry guy named Esau trades his entire birthright for just one bowl of stew. Yup, he gave up his family future because he couldn't wait to eat. It's like giving away your house just because you skipped breakfast. Hunger can make you do wild things. Long ago, a man named Thomas Jennings made history by becoming the first Black American to be granted a patent. What did he invent? A clever way to clean clothes without water, called dry cleaning. While others were still figuring out buttons, he was already rewriting the future of fashion and business. Real genius in action. Most Navy battleships were named after states like Texas or California. But there was one big exception. The USS Kearsarge. It didn't follow the rule. It stood out like a kid wearing pajamas to school, and still managed to impress. This battleship had its own vibe, and didn't need a fancy state name to shine. Imagine a heavy metal road trip that never ends. That's Ozfest, a crazy music tour created by Ozzy Osbourne and his wife Sharon. It wasn't just a concert. It was like a thunderstorm made of guitars and screaming fans. People came from everywhere just to lose their minds to the wildest rock show on earth. Canada once had a town with a hilarious name, Pile o' Bones. No joke. But eventually it got renamed to something a bit more royal, Regina, to honor Queen Elizabeth. It went from sounding like a Halloween decoration to a name that echoed in royal halls. Total glow-up, if you ask me. Just before turning 30, actor Adrian Brody pulled off something huge. He won the biggest movie award in the world for playing a sad, brave musician in The Pianist. He was the youngest guy ever to win that prize for Best Actor, and he didn't even get to enjoy it with a proper cake. Back in the 60s, a British band called The Pretty Things made a music album that told one full story from start to end. They named it S.F. Sorrow. And just like that, rock music got its first opera. No one thought guitars and drama could mix so well until they made it legendary. Up in the high mountains of South America, there's a language spoken by millions of native people called Quechua. It's not in your school books, but it's been passed down through stories, songs, and love. Even after all these years, it still beats strong like a drum in the Andes. The person running the roulette wheel in a casino, tossing that little ball and making hearts race, has a cool name, croupier. It sounds fancy, right? They're like the ringmasters of chance, making sure everything's fair while people hope their lucky number saves the day. Willie Mays wasn't just a baseball player, he was electric. Fans loved him so much they gave him the nickname, Say Hey Kid. Whether he was catching balls that looked impossible or swinging like a superhero, every game felt like watching magic on a baseball field. The chimera in Greek myths was a complete nightmare. It had the head of a lion, the body of a goat, and the tail of a snake. And oh yeah, it could breathe fire. It was like someone took 3 scary animals and mashed them together to haunt your dreams forever. A long time ago, women didn't just protest, they organized. In 1873, they formed a group called the Women's Christian Temperance Union. They wanted better rights, less alcohol, and more justice. These ladies weren't quiet. They were thundering in petticoats, starting one of the first ever female-led reform movements in America. Spain didn't always have Madrid as its capital. At one point, the king, Philip II, got tired of Valladolid and said, "Let's move it." So he shifted everything to Madrid. And just like that, the new center of Spanish power was born, all because one king wanted a new royal view. In old-school New York, many homes were built using something called brownstone. It was a tough local rock, dug up nearby and turned into rows of houses. If you see old buildings with reddish-brown steps and big doors, that's brownstone. It was like the city's original building block. During the Crusades, one of the holiest buildings, the Dome of the Rock, wasn't just for prayer. It became a base for the Knights Templar, a group of warrior monks. Imagine sacred halls echoing with sword practice and whispered battle plans. Faith and fight all under the same roof. Back when Napoleon tried to take over Spain, the people didn't just give up. They formed these groups called the Juntas Provinciales. They weren't soldiers, but they organized the whole resistance. They gathered towns, whispered plans, and pushed back against the invaders like everyday Avengers without capes. There's this weird little creature called a false scorpion. It has pincers like a crab and venom in its claws, but it doesn't have a stinger tail like a real scorpion. It's like the knockoff version. Still dangerous, just missing the scary part at the back. Creepy little ninja in the dirt. A long time ago, Russia was ruled by a guy named Michael. He wasn't just any czar. He started the Romanov dynasty, a royal bloodline that would rule for centuries. His family would eventually be involved in wars, love stories, betrayals, and revolutions. And it all began with one ruler named Michael. If you're still watching, you're not average. So prove it. Drop your thoughts below, and let's see how sharp this audience really is. When it comes to women's basketball, the Houston Comets were absolute legends. They didn't just win, they dominated. Other teams came and went, but the Comets collected championships like kids collect stickers. They were the queens of the court, proving again and again that skill and teamwork crush everything else. Rock salt isn't just something that goes on roads in winter. It's also known as halite, and it forms when salty water dries up completely. Picture a lake vanishing and leaving behind a crunchy floor of white crystals. That's halite, nature's leftover seasoning. In the world of cooking, there are 5 superstar sauces every chef must know. They're called the mother sauces. With names like bechamel and hollandaise, they're the secret behind creamy pastas, juicy meats, and fancy restaurant flavors. Get these 5 right, and you can pretty much cook anything your heart desires. Abscam was no Hollywood thriller. It was real. The FBI created a fake company called Abdul Enterprises in the late 70s to catch corrupt politicians. And it worked. They tricked lawmakers into accepting bribes on camera. It was like setting a trap with invisible ink and watching the greedy ones walk right in. Down in Florida, there's a tiny deer called the key deer. It's so small, it looks like someone hit the shrink button. And get this, it swims between islands like it's no big deal. But it's also super endangered, so people are working hard to protect this adorable island-hopping creature. Shakespeare loved ghosts. In 4 of his big plays, Hamlet, Macbeth, Julius Caesar, and Richard III, spirits actually show up on stage. These weren't just whispers in the dark. They had lines, anger, and drama. Ghosts with attitude, spooking characters into madness and making every scene a little more haunted. A brave Native American leader named Chief Joseph led his people on an epic journey to escape the U.S. Army. They were just 30 miles from the Canadian border when they got surrounded. Tired and heartbroken, he finally surrendered. His words were simple and sad. "I will fight no more forever." Alabaster may sound like something from a fantasy book, but it's actually a soft white rock used in carvings. It's made from gypsum and shines like frozen milk. Artists love it because it's easy to shape. From statues to ancient jars, alabaster has been turning rock into beauty for centuries. There's this radio show called All Things Considered that's been talking to America since the early 70s. One of its longest voices was Robert Siegel, who became the calm, trustworthy host starting in the late 80s. He guided people through big stories for decades, like the friendly neighbor who always had the latest news. High up in the clouds, way above sea level, sits a city named Sucre. But it's no regular town. It holds the power of judgment. It's the judicial capital of Bolivia. Imagine a place where every important courtroom decision climbs up a mountain before it's spoken. That's Sucre, quiet, powerful, and perched above it all. A long time ago, Kingston became the very first capital of New York, but that honor didn't last long. In the same year it was crowned, the British rolled in and burned it down. So much for celebration. It was like throwing a birthday party and having it rained on by cannonballs. Bertha von Suttner didn't fight wars, she fought for peace. Back when hardly anyone cared about stopping wars and even fewer listened to women, she stood up and shouted, "No more." Her voice was so powerful, she became the first woman ever to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Words won where weapons failed. Imagine turning your TV on in the 50s and watching history unfold like breaking news. That was You Are There, a show where Walter Cronkite told old stories as if they were happening right now. It felt like time travel through the screen. 1 minute Rome, the next, the American Revolution, all with a news anchor's tone. Only 2 states in America get called by shiny nicknames, California with its golden dreams and Nevada flashing its silver charm. These names didn't just come from nowhere. They're tied to real treasures people dug from the earth. It's like calling your friend Goldie because she always brings the best candy. The band REO Speedwagon hit a jackpot with an album called High Infidelity. It exploded in the 80s, selling millions of copies and giving them their first big radio hit. That song, Take It on the Run, blasted from car windows and cassette tapes like an anthem for heartbreak and highway dreams. Louisiana has a bird that's not only odd, it's unforgettable. The brown pelican, with its giant bill and lazy glide flying, became the official state bird. It's not the prettiest or fastest, but it's loyal to the sea and always hungry for adventure, just like the wild soul of Louisiana itself. Before the late 60s, flight attendants had ridiculous rules. If they got married or turned a certain age, 32 or 35 depending on the airline, they were fired. Yup, fired. Like being told you're too old for a party you helped plan. It took a big fight to change that nonsense. Way back in the 1830s, a guy named Louis Daguerre figured out how to trap light and turn it into memories. He used silver-coated copper plates to create the first real photographs. Those early pictures looked ghostly, but they were magic, proof that moments could now be frozen forever. Rosemary Woods wasn't just a secretary. She was the woman who stayed loyal to President Nixon through one of the biggest political scandals ever, Watergate. She'd worked with him since his early days in Congress. During the investigation, she became a name everyone suddenly knew, holding secrets and tape machines, like a silent soldier. Nellie Taylor Ross broke the rules with a smile. In the 20s, she became Wyoming's first woman governor, and not just the states, but the entire countries. Then she went even bigger, running the U.S. Mint for 20 years. From the voting booth to printing money, Nellie left her mark in ink and gold. Back in old Paris, some prisoners got a strange deal. If they agreed to marry prostitutes and move to Louisiana, they could walk free. Sounds like a plot twist from a weird romance novel, but it's real history. A jail sentence swapped for marriage and a boat ride to the unknown. Clint Eastwood proved that age is just a number when he directed Million Dollar Baby. Not only did the film win hearts, it also won him an Oscar for Best Director, making him the oldest person to ever grab that golden statue. He didn't yell action, he whispered it like a cowboy boss. The word pixel sounds modern, but it's actually a mashup. It came from the idea of picture plus element. Someone clever in the 60s thought, why not blend the two? So every tiny dot you see on a screen today, every smiley face and video, is built from those little picture particles called pixels. Believe it or not, Vermont once tried to switch teams and join Quebec. Yeah, the American state wanted to be Canadian. For a moment, the idea floated like a maple leaf in the wind, before disappearing. But it happened. Vermont almost traded stars and stripes for maple syrup and snow boots. Virginia Wade gave her country a reason to cheer loud in the late 70s when she won Wimbledon. She became the last English woman to hold the singles title. Since then, no one from England has done it. That win was more than a trophy. It was a thunderclap in tennis history. Guess what? The King of Jordan once appeared in a sci-fi show, just as an extra. Long before wearing a crown, he popped up in Star Trek, Voyager. No royal cape, just a little moment in space TV. It's like finding out your class president once danced in a background TikTok. Arizona couldn't decide on one capital for a long time. First, it tried one city, then another, and again, until finally settling on Phoenix. It was like musical chairs, but with entire governments. Phoenix won the final round and became the permanent capital, and it's been heating up ever since. The Obie Award isn't as flashy as the Oscars, but for actors off the big Broadway stage, it's everything. Created by the Village Voice in the 50s, it became the highest honor for off-Broadway performances. Winning one meant you were a rebel star shining far from the big spotlight. John Dillinger didn't just escape prison. He did it with style. He carved a fake gun out of wood, painted it black, and scared the guards into opening the doors. He tricked an entire jail with nothing but guts and a wooden toy. It was like something straight out of a wild movie. If you've ever eaten beef near the neck area, chances are you've tasted chuck. That's the meat between a cow's shoulder blade and neck. It's tough, flavorful, and perfect for stew. Butchers know it well. It's the strong, no-nonsense cut that needs some love to become delicious. The Grand Canyon looks like it was born in Arizona, but guess what? Some of the sand in it actually traveled all the way from the Appalachian Mountains. That's across the country. Time, rivers, and wind carried those grains from one end of America to the other. Talk about long-distance travel. Jack Murphy wasn't just a surfing champion. He also became a jewel thief. In the 60s, he and two others pulled off a wild heist, stealing the Star of India diamond and other gems from a museum. From waves to alarms, Jack's life switched from surfboards to handcuffs in a heartbeat. If you've made it this far, you're not normal. You're one of the rare ones. You crave knowledge not to impress, but to dominate. And if this video made your brain tingle even once, then imagine what I'm dropping next. But here's the truth. Over 90% of you won't even subscribe. They'll scroll, forget, and stay average. But if you're still here, hit that red button and prove you're not like the rest. What have you seen so far? That's just the tip of the iceberg. What's underneath is hidden. Facts are so twisted they feel fake. If you think the world makes sense, this'll ruin that idea real quick. Let's bend reality, one fact at a time.
So many questions. Why is the world spinning? Why is the moon keeping its orbit? Can rockets fly backwards? The facts you didn't know you needed. The useless show.
A single cow, just one, can make enough milk in her life to fill hundreds of thousands of glasses. Imagine a cow standing there and saying, "You're welcome," every time someone pours milk into their cereal. She's basically a milk machine wrapped in a moo. Africa is like Earth's hidden treasure chest. If you dig deep enough, about 1/3 of all the minerals still waiting to be discovered are buried under African soil. It's as if the planet whispered, "Hide the good stuff there," and forgot to leave a map. In all the Twilight movies, if you mash up every scene where the characters are just staring at each other silently, you'd get almost half an hour of people doing absolutely nothing but gazing. That's a lot of dramatic eye contact for one movie series. If you're standing anywhere in Central America and you feel like swimming, you're in luck. No matter where you are, the ocean is never too far. Walk or run, east or west. Eventually, you'll hit the waves. It's like being trapped inside a wet hug. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. There's actually a village in Norway called Hell. And guess what? It freezes over every winter. So if someone says, "I'll believe it when hell freezes over," tell them to book a trip. They're way behind on updates. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Koalas have fingerprints that look freakishly similar to ours. If they ever commit a crime, we might arrest the wrong guy. Imagine a detective yelling, "We found the prints," and the koala sitting there chewing leaves like, "Good luck solving that." It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. People think SOS is short for something fancy like "save our ship," but nope. It was picked because it's easy to tap out in Morse code. ... It's the emergency version of yelling help, super loud and simple. Pluto lives way, way, way out in space. It's so far from the sun that if light left the sun and zoomed toward Pluto, it would take it years to arrive. It's basically the forgotten neighbor of the solar system who barely shows up to parties. There's a wild mountain in Canada called Mount Thor, and it's not just tall. It has a vertical drop so scary that if you jumped off the edge, you'd fall faster than your stomach could scream. It's the Earth's version of a mega slide. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Chimpanzees are like our long-lost siblings. Our DNA matches so closely that if evolution were a giant jigsaw puzzle, chimps would be the piece that almost clicks with us but has one weird corner. Basically, they're the hairy cousins we never invite to Thanksgiving. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Back in wartime, soldiers didn't just get bullets and boots, they also got candy. Tootsie Rolls were packed in their rations. So while bombs exploded, someone out there was unwrapping chocolate chewy goodness thinking, one more bite and I'll be brave again. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The land of Louisiana was once sold by France to America for a price so cheap it's shocking. Just a few coins per acre. It's like buying a mansion for the cost of a sandwich. Some deals are so wild they make you squint in disbelief. Imagine mixing a plum and an apricot together, like a science experiment in fruit school. What you get is a pluot, juicy, sweet, and totally real. It sounds like a made-up cartoon fruit, but it's out there, waiting for your taste buds to discover its magic. In Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, there are several villages with a name that's just one letter. Oh, it's not a sound you sneeze out, it means river. If you ever ask someone where they're from and they say, oh, they're not trying to confuse you, promise. Some people are scared of spiders or snakes, but allophobia? That's the fear of flutes. Yep, musical instruments. Just imagine someone running in terror while a tiny flute toots a gentle melody. The brain is weird, and fear doesn't always make sense. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Way in the back of the US Senate chamber, there's a secret desk filled with candy. No joke, it's like the cool kid of the room. While laws are being made and serious faces are everywhere, that one desk is quietly living its best snack life. After Steve Jobs stepped away from Apple for a while, the company did something unexpected. They tried making clothes. Yup, shirts and jackets. It was called the Apple Collection. Imagine rocking an eye sweater before iPhones were even a thing. Wild fashion times. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. There was once an Egyptian king who couldn't stand flies. So he covered his servants in honey, just to lure the bugs away from him. Those poor guys were human fly traps. Ancient royalty had some seriously sticky solutions for their tiny problems. Their jaws click like tiny tools, turning the jungle floor into a living surgery room. Monaco is tiny, but people live there like sardines in a can. Thousands of folks squeezed into a space smaller than most parks. If it sneezed, you'd probably fall into the ocean. It's the most people-packed place in the world, and still somehow looks rich. When the sun sends light toward Earth, it doesn't happen instantly. It takes about as long as an average cartoon episode to arrive. So when you see sunlight, it's not fresh. It's like a cosmic replay from minutes ago. The universe runs on delay. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The Boston Tea Party wasn't really a party, unless your idea of fun is tossing hundreds of chests of tea into the sea. That's exactly what rebels did one night to protest British taxes. Somewhere in the harbor, the ocean probably still tastes slightly of Earl Grey. Pluto is so far from the sun that it needs nearly 2.5 centuries just to take one trip around it. If Pluto were a student, it'd still be working on its first lap while Earth graduated, got a job, and retired. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Camels have 3 eyelids. Not 1, not 2, 3. They basically have a built-in sandstorm defense system. While we're blinking and crying in the wind, camels are out there like desert superheroes, barely flinching. Nature gave them goggles before goggles existed. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. You'd need nearly 500 paper dollar bills to make a pound. That's a stack taller than your hand. So if someone hands you a pound of cash, don't expect it to be coins. Expect a paper mountain that smells slightly of wallets. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Cows are thirsty giants. One dairy cow can gulp down up to 50 gallons of water a day. That's like filling a big bathtub just for her to drink. It's no wonder they make so much milk. They're basically walking, mooing water tanks. Their jaws click like tiny tools, turning the jungle floor into a living surgery room. A nautical mile is like the sea's version of a marathon cheat code. It's longer than the land mile by over 800 feet. So when ships brag about their speed, they're using extra long miles. It's like flexing in ocean speak, and the landwalkers don't even know. Antarctica is like Earth's freezer chest, but not just cold. It's packed with ice so massive that it's equal to all the water in the Atlantic Ocean. That's not a snow cone. That's a whole planet's worth of frozen water stacked like giant icy pancakes. It's the cold king of the globe. Before lighting your next candle, stick it in the freezer. Seriously. That little icy nap makes it burn slower and drip less. Science doesn't even argue. It's like the candle becomes more chill, literally, and behaves better. Fire meets freezer, and somehow they become best friends. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Your head and neck are basically heat escape artists. More than half of your body's warmth slips out from there like a silent ninja. So when mom says wear a hat in winter, she's not being annoying. She's trying to keep your heat from going on a sneaky vacation. Smiling isn't just good vibes, it's anti-wrinkle power. Every couple thousand frowns give you a wrinkle, but smiling? That keeps your skin chill. So the next time you're grumpy, remember? Your face remembers it forever. Be happy, be wrinkle-free. That's the ultimate beauty hack from evolution itself. Hop in a New York City taxi and chances are the driver speaks a language you've never even heard before. Together, all the cabbies there speak around 60 languages. It's like riding in the Tower of Babel on wheels. One ride, 100 cultures, all in one big yellow blur. New York City isn't just one big chunk of land. Nope. It's actually made up of about 50 separate islands. That's like a secret archipelago pretending to be a single city. So while you're stuck in traffic, just remember, you're basically island hopping without even realizing it. If you strike the Liberty Bell, it sings out a note, E-flat. Not just any clang, but a specific musical pitch. It's like the bell's voice is tuned to sadness and strength at once. Even cracked, it still speaks with a note that history remembers like a long, slow whisper. Way back in 1710, pigs were kicked off the streets of Philadelphia. Yep, city officials said, no more porky parades, because they kept wandering around like they owned the sidewalks. So, Bacon had to pack up and find a new path in life, off the public roads. The name IKEA isn't just random letters, it stands for the founder's name, his farm, and his hometown in Sweden. Ingvar komprad Elmtarid Agunarid. It's like a secret code that only the furniture understands. That's why your bookshelf is called Blorg or Snöjöfel. It's Swedish wizardry. Back in 2009, Stephen Hawking threw a party. But here's the twist. He didn't tell anyone about it until after it happened. Why? Because it was for time travelers. If anyone showed up, it would prove time machines exist. Nobody came. So time travel is either shy or impossible. Violin bows look fancy, but they've got a weird secret. The string isn't just thread, it's horsehair. Yup, real hair from real horses. Every time a violin sings, a horse somewhere unknowingly helped make the magic. Kind of beautiful, kind of odd. Music can be weird like that. Canada has fewer ships in its navy than some of the tiniest countries you've never heard of. Less than 30 total. It's like showing up to a sea battle with a kayak, while everyone else brings battleships. But hey, maybe they're just politely waiting for peace to win. In Morocco, love doesn't come from the heart. It comes from the liver. Yeah, the squishy organ under your ribs that filters toxins is their symbol of romance. So if someone says, "You have my liver," don't panic. They're not weird. They're just deeply in love. The Moroccan way. One of the popes in history was chosen when he was just 11 years old. 11. Most kids that age are still figuring out multiplication, and this guy was leading a church. Not only that, he quit and came back again. Like being pope was his weekend hobby. On a cold island called Svalbard in Norway, it's illegal to die. Why? Because the ground's too frozen to bury you. Bodies won't decompose, and diseases might wake up years later. So if you're close to the end, they fly you away. Death takes a plane out of town. Crocodiles might look like lizards, but in the family tree, they're actually closer to birds. Yep, the same creatures that chirp and flap. It's like Croc skipped the memo on wings and just kept the teeth and growls. Dinosaurs would totally invite both to the same reunion. One guy in England sipped so much coffee for his job that he insured his tongue for millions of pounds. He works for Costa Coffee as a master taster. If anything ever happened to his taste buds, it'd be like losing a treasure map. He can literally taste perfection. Johnny Cash, the man in black, took just 3 voice lessons. After that, the teacher told him, "You've already got it. Don't change a thing." Imagine being so cool even a music teacher backs away like, "Yeah, you do you." His voice wasn't trained. It was born. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Back when alcohol was banned in America, pharmacies were allowed to sell whiskey as medicine. Walgreens, the drugstore chain, exploded in size. So yeah, a lot of people suddenly got real sick and real thirsty. The flu? Nah, just a prescription for some liquid relief. Studies found that people who constantly post gym selfies and workout updates online might be dealing with something deeper. Not always, but often it's a craving for attention. So when someone flexes on your timeline, they might just be screaming inside, "Do you love me yet?" Those spiky iron underwear things called chastity belts? Total myth. Most of the ones you see in museums were made much later as jokes or props. Medieval folks weren't really locking each other up like that. It was more fantasy than fact. History got trolled hard. Almost half of all Americans live close enough to Philadelphia that they could get there in a day's drive. That city isn't just historic. It's basically the center of everyone's neighborhood cookout. You throw a rock, and someone nearby probably once had a cheesesteak for lunch. In Philadelphia, there's an actual law that says you can't sell pretzels in bags. The city that loves freedom also really cares how you snack. So if you're munching on salty twists from a sack, be careful. You might just be breaking the weirdest law ever. The board game Monopoly isn't just made-up streets. Every single property is named after real places in Atlantic City. So when you buy Boardwalk or Park Place, you're not just playing. You're pretending to be a real estate mogul in a beach town from another era. Roll the dice, tycoon. There was a clam named Ming who lived for over 4 centuries. That little sea creature was already chilling on the ocean floor when kings ruled and castles were new. Researchers found him and gasped. He was like the Gandalf of clams, wise, wrinkled, and way older than anyone expected. Every year in April, Earth throws itself a birthday party, and over 180 countries join in. On the 22nd, people everywhere plant trees, clean parks, and cheer for nature. It's like the planet gets a global group hug from humans who finally remember their guests on this spinning rock. Back in the old days, warriors didn't have band-aids. So, what did they use for cuts? Spider webs. Sticky, stretchy, and packed with healing power. Those silken threads patched up wounds like nature's first aid kit. Imagine being wrapped in webs and thinking, "Thanks, Spider-Man," before Spider-Man was even born. One big tree isn't just pretty, it's a superhero. It can pump out enough oxygen for a whole family to breathe. While you're busy scrolling or snoring, that tree's working quietly, making sure your lungs have what they need. Respect the leafy legend next time you walk by one. Siberian tigers are like giant striped cats, but unlike your couch-loving kitty, they absolutely love swimming. Lakes, rivers, doesn't matter. They dive in with pure joy. If your house cat ever saw this, it'd hiss, hide, and report the tiger to the Cats Hate Water Committee for betrayal. In the dark, tigers become night vision ninjas. Their eyes are 6 times better than ours when the lights go out. So, while you're tripping over the couch in the dark, a tiger would already be halfway to the fridge and back, all while stalking its midnight snack. Here's the sad twist. More Siberian tigers live behind bars and zoos than roam free in the wild. These majestic beasts, born to rule snowy forests, now mostly pace inside enclosures. It's a reminder that wild beauty is fragile, and sometimes we don't realize what we're caging. The jaguar once ruled from deep jungles all the way to the southern United States. The biggest cat in the West wasn't just fierce, it was everywhere. But over time, humans pushed them out. Now, they're rare, but still royal, like ancient kings hiding in leafy thrones. Imagine chomping down over 80 pounds of salad every day. That's what the giant panda does with bamboo. From sunup to bedtime, it's non-stop chewing. No sauce, no breaks, just crunchy stalks. If bamboo were a video game, pandas would be the undefeated champions of snack mode. An American group called Wildlife Forever has planted over 100,000 trees since the late 80s. That's like giving Earth a bunch of leafy high fives every year. These heroes quietly turned empty fields into forests, showing that saving the planet can start with just one little sapling. Manhattan wasn't always skyscrapers and honking horns. Long ago, it was wild and bursting with animals. Just like Yellowstone today. Deer, bears, birds. It was a jungle hiding in city clothes. Imagine trading taxis for tigers. That island had more nature than most people will ever believe. Dogs bark and whine and howl. That's about 10 sounds, but cats? Those fluff balls have over 100 vocal tricks. Meows, purrs, growls. They're like furry opera singers. So next time your cat meows, just know it's choosing from a menu of meows you probably don't even deserve. Pelicans have beaks that could win food-eating contests. They can hold more snacks in their beak pouch than they can stuff in their bellies. It's like their face is a giant lunchbox. When fish see it open, they don't scream. They just dive for cover. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Cats are secret superheroes when it comes to jumping. They can launch themselves 5 times the length of their own tail. That's like you jumping over a bus without running first. If cats wore capes, we'd finally understand what they were training for on top of refrigerators. Flying fish don't just flap around. They rocket out of the ocean at crazy speeds, then glide through the air for hundreds of feet. It's not flying like birds, but it's close. They're like fish that looked at the sky one day and thought, yeah, we want that. The roadrunner doesn't just exist in cartoons. It's a real bird that zips across deserts chasing prey at blazing speeds. It's basically the bird version of a sports car. Quick, light, and always in a rush. Wile E. Coyote wasn't wrong to be jealous. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. There's a fish that spits like a sniper. The archer fish shoots a stream of water from its mouth to knock bugs off branches. Boom. Target down. Snack delivered. It's like having a built-in squirt gun with perfect aim. The fish world has its own secret assassins. The spotted skunk doesn't just spray when it's mad, it puts on a little circus show first. It flips into a handstand, waves its legs, and gives you a final warning. If you don't back off, prepare to smell like rotten disaster. The handstand is cute. The stink is not. Male crickets don't hear with ears like us. They've got little hearing spots on their legs, specifically their shin bones. It's like nature said, let's shake things up. So while you're wondering what that chirping sound is, the cricket is listening with its knees. Wild, right? It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Spiny lobsters love a good parade. When it's time to move, they form a line. Dozens of them, marching across the ocean floor like a conga line of crustaceans. No music, just underwater hustle. It's part migration, part dance party, and totally adorable. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The National Park Service is like Earth's ultimate babysitter. They watch over more than 300 parks, keeping 80 million acres clean, green, and wild. That's like guarding a treasure chest of forests, mountains, deserts, and dreams. If nature had superheroes, they'd wear park ranger hats. A daily walk isn't just good for your steps, it's good for your sleep. Taking time to move those legs under the sky helps your brain chill out later. It's like your body's saying, thanks for the walk. Now here's better dreams. The sidewalk is basically medicine. Making recycled paper uses way less energy than making the fresh stuff, like almost half as much. It's like the difference between sprinting and chilling in a hammock. So next time you recycle a notebook, imagine your paper going, thanks buddy, I needed that nap. 1 ton of recycled paper saves around 17 trees. That's a tiny forest spared because someone chose the blue bin. Imagine all those trees waving their branches in gratitude. Recycle a little, and you're basically a forest guardian in disguise. Think about that. Just standing there, quietly saving your breath without asking for anything in return. Steel is the comeback king. No matter how many times you melt it, reshape it, or reuse it, it's still strong. 100% recyclable means it's the superhero of metals. Tough, flexible, and always ready for round 2 or round 20. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Rechargeable batteries are like the phoenixes of the gadget world. You can juice them up again and again, up to 1,000 times. It's like pressing a reset button every time they feel tired. Your TV remote and phone owe their lives to these tiny, unstoppable energy warriors. Want to check if an egg is fresh? Drop it in water. If it sinks, it's good. If it floats, it's old. It's like the egg's way of saying, I'm past my prime, by doing a lazy backstroke. Science meets breakfast in the weirdest kitchen trick ever. A camel doesn't sip water. It inhales it. In just a few minutes, it can drink 25 gallons, like it's trying to empty a small swimming pool. While you're still finishing your glass, the camel's ready to cross the desert like a giant furry tank. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. One big oak tree doesn't just stand tall, it sweats. Seriously. In a single day, it can release 7 tons of water through its leaves. That's like crying a whole swimming pool into the air just to keep the forest cool. Nature's air conditioner never stops working. In Belgium, there's a museum dedicated entirely to strawberries. Walls, displays, facts, all about those little red fruits. It's like a love letter to berries, with seeds, sweetness, and history. If strawberries had a fan club, this place would be their palace. These little companions always find a way to surprise us with how much they understand. More people around the world eat mangoes than any other fruit. Apples? Nope. Bananas? Close. But mangoes win the snack crown. Juicy, golden, and sweet. They've taken over taste buds in nearly every country. When in doubt, mango it out. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The strawberries are covered in tiny yellow dots, but those aren't just decorations, they're seeds. And the average strawberry wears about 200 of them like freckles. It's the only fruit that shows its seeds on the outside. Basically, it's nature's way of showing off. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. A strawberry isn't technically a berry, but a banana? That totally is. Confused yet? Welcome to fruit science, where names are lies and bananas beat strawberries in a game they didn't even know they were playing. Botanists must laugh a lot. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Fresh apples float in water because they're full of air. About 1/4 of their body is just empty space. So when they take a dip, they bob up like tiny boats. Bite one, and you're munching on fruit with a built-in life vest. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The very first fruit eaten on the moon wasn't space-themed, it was a peach. Yup, astronauts cracked open some juicy goodness while floating above Earth. No aliens, no lasers, just soft, fuzzy fruit making history in zero gravity. The moon got its first bite of Georgia. It's almost like space itself needed a spotlight, and the moon volunteered to be the stage. Despite its name, a pineapple isn't an apple or anything close to a pine cone. It's actually a giant berry. Imagine a berry that hit the gym, grew muscles, and put on a spiky helmet. Pineapples are the bodybuilders of the fruit world. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. A snail might move slow, but inside its mouth, absolute chaos. These little creatures can have 25,000 teeth, more than a shark, a lion, and a whole dentist's office combined. All that hardware, and they still choose to eat leaves at half a mile per week. You can't see a polar bear on an infrared camera. Not because it's sneaky, but because its fur is see-through and reflects heat so well, it basically turns invisible. It's like nature handed it an invisibility cloak and said, "Go rule the ice." It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Spider silk is no joke. It's stronger than steel if you match it by weight. That tiny thread you flick off your shirt could hold up a building if it were thick enough. Spiders are the silent engineers of the bug world, spinning magic one strand at a time. If you somehow threw the planet Saturn into a giant bathtub, it would float. Seriously, it's so light for its size that it's like the beach ball of the solar system. All those rings? Just bonus-style points on the universe's biggest pool toy. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Twins have a spooky habit of being left-handed more often than single babies. No one really knows why. It's just another twin thing. From matching clothes to mirror image hands, twins keep the world guessing with their twin stinks. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Some people are so scared of vegetables. It's called lichenophobia. Broccoli, panic. Carrots, terror. It's not about picky eating. It's full-on horror movie fear. Salads turn into nightmares. Lettuce never looked so threatening. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. There are more than 2,000 types of cactuses. Big ones, tiny ones, twisty ones. They're like the plant world's version of Pokemon. Most of them are just chilling in deserts, surviving with zero water and maximum style. Spiky, proud, and impossible to kill. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The chicken is the closest living relative to the T-Rex. Yeah, that tiny feathered clucker used to have a giant roaring ancestor. So next time one pecks your shoe, remember, you're dealing with a tiny dinosaur in disguise. Evolution just made them less bitey. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Every single scorpion glows under ultraviolet light. Shine a black light on one, and it lights up like a glow stick. Scientists still aren't sure why. It's like the scorpions are keeping their secrets hidden in neon. They're basically living disco bugs with claws. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. India's Statue of Unity towers over the world. It's taller than any other statue, nearly 600 feet high. It makes the Statue of Liberty look like a garden gnome. Built in honor of Sardar Patel, It's more than a statue. It's a steel giant standing for unity and pride. Believe it or not, potatoes have more chromosomes than humans. Those humble spuds are rocking extra genetic gear like it's no big deal. So while we're worrying about homework and taxes, potatoes are chilling underground being overachievers. Respect the root. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. A full moon isn't just romantic. It's way brighter than a half moon. Like 9 times brighter. That's a glow up you can feel. It's as if the moon's shouting, "Look at me," with all its shiny power. Werewolves don't stand a chance. It's almost like space itself needed a spotlight, and the moon volunteered to be the stage. Your brain is only a tiny part of your body, just 2%, but it uses 1/5 of your energy. That's like a phone app draining your whole battery. Thinking hard isn't just mental, it's physically exhausting. Brains are energy hogs with big ideas. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Poison ivy and poison oak are liars. They're not ivy. They're not oak. They're members of the cashew family. Yup, the same group that brings you snacks also brings you itchy rashes. Mother Nature has a twisted sense of humor and a very confusing family tree. Plants don't just sit there, they feel things too. When they're sick, they can actually get fevers just like us. Their temperature rises to fight off diseases, proving they've got defense systems. Imagine a little daisy with a thermometer in its mouth whispering, "I think I caught a leaf cold." If geysers had a headquarters, it would be Yellowstone National Park. More than half of the world's geysers, those boiling, spraying fountains of steam, live there. It's like nature's own pressure cooker playground. Walk through the park and you'll feel like the ground is breathing hot breath straight from Earth's core. Geese are fancy with their group names. On the ground, they're a gaggle, like a noisy family reunion. But the second they take flight, they're a skein, slicing through the sky like feathered fighter jets. Same birds, new name, just because they decided to flap instead of waddle. Polar bears are basically superheroes of sniffing. They can smell a seal chilling under the ice from 20 miles away. That's like you smelling pizza across an entire city. When hunger hits, a polar bear's nose turns into a seal-detecting radar. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. In Australia, they love wordplay. When someone says Aristotle, they don't mean the ancient Greek guy. They mean a bottle. It's slang that rhymes, like a secret code. So if you hear someone ask for an Aristotle of water, don't start quoting philosophy. Just pass the drink. Of all the bugs crawling around, only one can turn its head to say, "What was that?" The praying mantis. While other insects stay stiff, the mantis swivels like it's hearing secrets. With those big eyes and a turning neck, it's like the owl of the insect world. The United States once bought all of Alaska from Russia for just about 2 cents per acre. That's cheaper than chewing gum. They basically got mountains, wildlife, and glaciers for the price of pocket change. Russia probably still feels a little salty about that sweet deal. Dogs run hotter than humans. Their average body temperature sits at about 101 degrees Fahrenheit. That's why they pant so much. They're walking heaters wrapped in fur. So when your dog flops down, it's just trying not to melt into the floor. These little companions always find a way to surprise us with how much they understand. Eagles once caused a budget meltdown. Scientists put trackers on them to study flight patterns, but the birds flew into areas with high phone charges. Every time they texted their location, the bill exploded. One bird alone sent enough data to bankrupt the entire study. Oops. Garden worms are full of surprises, like the fact that they've got 5 pairs of hearts. Not 1, not 2. 10 tiny pumps keeping their squiggly bodies alive. No wonder they wiggle so energetically. They're little heart-powered engines turning dirt into treasure. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Your brain is mostly water, about 80%. So when someone says you need to stay hydrated to think clearly, they're not kidding. Your thoughts are practically floating. It's like having a squishy sponge up there working as a supercomputer with the consistency of a water balloon. Of all your fingers, your middle one has the fastest growing nail. That's right, the rebel finger doesn't just make bold statements, it also grows quicker than the rest. Maybe it's showing off, maybe it's competitive, but it's always ahead in the nail race. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Your brain runs on the same power as a 10-watt light bulb. That's like a tiny nightlight glowing in your head, making dreams, memories, and ideas. It doesn't take much electricity, but it uses it brilliantly. Brains are low-energy, high-performance machines. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Just like no two fingerprints are the same, everyone's tongue has a unique print. You've got your own personal tongue identity badge hidden in your mouth. If your tongue ever goes missing in a spy movie, it'll definitely be easy to track. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Most toes have 3 bones, but your big toe, only 2. It's the chonky one, the captain of balance, and it doesn't need as many pieces to do its job. It's like the boss who gets stuff done with fewer tools and still calls the shots. You breathe about 23,000 times a day without even thinking about it. That's your lungs doing cardio without permission. Every inhale, exhale adds up like tiny quiet claps keeping your body alive. Your breath is the background hero in every single thing you do. Yes, lightning can totally strike twice. In fact, it often does. It's not picky. So if you thought it couldn't happen again in the same spot, think again. Lightning's got favorites, and it's got no problem visiting more than once. Boom, flash, repeat. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Before it became Tennessee, the state went by a different name, Franklin. Yep, they named it after Benjamin Franklin, hoping he'd support their independence. He didn't, but the name stuck around for a while anyway. It was like sending a shout-out that never got a reply. Stop signs weren't always red. They used to be yellow because red paint faded too fast in the sun. But by the 1950s, new materials made long-lasting red possible. That's when red became the new warning boss. And now drivers around the world instantly know it means stop. Try tickling yourself. Doesn't work, right? That's because your brain already knows what's coming. It's like your nerves are in on the joke and refuse to laugh. Tickling only surprises others, not yourself. Your body's funny that way. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Owls live on almost every continent, except Antarctica. That cold, snowy land has penguins and seals, but not a single hooting bird in sight. Maybe the owls took one look at the ice, said nope, and stayed somewhere warmer, where mice are easier to find. It might sound simple, but the wilder it gets. If you ever wondered how many ways you can make change for $1 using coins, the answer is nearly 300. 293 combinations to be exact. That's a lot of math hiding in your wallet. Coins are secretly puzzle pieces in your pocket. Shakespeare didn't just write plays, he made up words too. Assassination. That was his invention. Bump. Also him. The man literally wrote the dictionary while writing drama. If he couldn't find the word he needed, he just made one up. Total language hacker. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. One French author wrote an entire novel, over 200 pages, without a single verb. That means no action words like run, laugh, or eat. It's like trying to build a Lego castle without bricks. How did he pull it off? Pure literary wizardry. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Australia has no active volcanoes. Not one. It's the only continent that's volcanically asleep. While other places have lava bubbling and mountains rumbling, Australia just sits there quietly like, yeah, I'll pass on the explosions. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The dots on dominoes? They're not just spots. They've got a cool name, pips. Tiny little points of power that decide your next move in the game. Every time you slam a domino on the table, those pips are silently screaming, I win! It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Now, here's a math trick that sounds fake, but it's real. Take 111,111,111 and multiply it by itself. The answer is a perfect stair-stepping number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mind blown. Tug of war wasn't just a playground showdown. It used to be an Olympic sport. Teams pulled with all their might for gold medals. Imagine athletes training not to run or jump, but to yank a rope harder than the other guys. Peak teamwork. Pure tension. Zero slack. The city we call Bangkok, that's just a nickname. Its full Thai name is over 100 letters long. It's like a poem and a tongue twister got married. Locals shorten it for obvious reasons. Imagine trying to spell that on your passport. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. In ancient Greece, if a guy tossed you an apple, it wasn't a snack. It was a proposal. That fruit meant, I want to marry you. So if someone flings an apple your way, duck or say, I do. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Even though karate is famous in Japan, it actually started in India. Yup, The roots of those epic punches and kicks began with Indian monks using martial moves to protect themselves. The journey from temple to dojo was long and full of epic chops. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. That never-ending sideways 8 is called a lemniscate. It's the official symbol of infinity, meaning something that never ends. Whether it's love, space, or your homework pile, this curly little loop is the fanciest way to say there's no finish line. These little companions always find a way to surprise us with how much they understand. Kids shoot up like sunflowers in spring. Science says children grow faster during that season. Like nature flipped the growth switch. Sunshine, longer days, and fresh air all whisper to their bones, "Go ahead, stretch." It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Want to say a word? You'll need 72 muscles to do it. Lips, tongue, throat, chest, they all team up just to make one tiny sound. Saying hi is actually a full body performance your muscles don't get enough credit for. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Old-time sailors wore gold earrings not just for fashion, but because they believed it would help their eyesight. No joke. They thought the shiny metal worked like magic glasses. Sea legends sure had some wild ideas, but hey, at least they looked fancy. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Your eyes stay the same size your whole life, but your nose and ears? Those two never stop growing. It's like the rest of your body signed a contract to stop, but your face parts said, nah, we'll keep stretching forever. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Umbrellas are ancient, more than 4,000 years old. Egypt, China, Greece, they all had versions of these shady tools. But originally, they weren't for rain. They were meant to block the sun. That's right. The umbrella began as a portable patch of shade. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Every single hour, over 1 billion of your body's cells get replaced. Boom. New ones roll in like a microscopic construction crew. You're constantly rebuilding without noticing. Right now, parts of you are younger than your breakfast. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Women's hearts usually beat faster than men's. It's not a competition, it's biology. Tick, tick, tick. Like a soft drum that stays one step ahead. It's a quiet reminder that inside, we're all wired just a little differently. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. 6-year-olds are laughter champions. They crack up about 300 times a day. Adults, maybe 15 to 100. So yeah, growing up means giggling less, but maybe we just need more silly jokes, tickle fights, and ice cream emergencies. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Kids have way more taste buds than adults. That's why broccoli tastes like betrayal when you're little. As we grow, we lose some of those buds. So things you once hated, you might suddenly love. Taste buds are little rebels that retire early. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The very first electric traffic lights were built in Cleveland, Ohio. Before that, crossing the street was kind of a gamble. Thanks to Cleveland's bright idea, cars stopped crashing and walkers finally got a fair shot. Red, yellow, green. City life changed forever. Think about that. Just standing there, quietly saving your breath without asking for anything in return. South Carolina gave America its first taste of homegrown tea. Before that, it all came from faraway lands. Now, thanks to a bold farm in the South, Americans could sip tea from their own soil. Hot, sweet, and proudly local. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The word rookie comes from recce, short for recruit back in the Civil War. So next time you call someone a rookie, remember it started with real soldiers learning the ropes. From battlefield to baseball field, it's all about being the new kid on the block. President Taft was the heaviest ever, 329 pounds of power. Meanwhile, President Madison was the lightest, barely hitting 100. It's like America's version of heavyweight and featherweight champs leading the country with very different sizes, but the same level of boss energy. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Harry Truman was the last president who didn't have a college degree. No fancy diploma, but he still led the country through war and peace. He proved that brains and courage don't always wear graduation caps. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Abraham Lincoln was a skyscraping 6'4", while James Madison barely hit 5'4". That's a whole foot of difference. It's like Big Abe and Little Jimmy stood side by side and someone said, same job, different altitude. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Franklin Roosevelt had presidential connections galore. He was related to 5 other presidents by blood and 6 more by marriage. It's like he had a family reunion, and the guest list looked like a White House history book. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Thomas Jefferson didn't just write the Declaration of Independence, he also invented the coat hanger. So next time you grab one from your closet, say thanks to a founding father who kept your shirts wrinkle-free in spirit. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. President Theodore Roosevelt had a pet bear. Yes, a real bear in the White House. While others had cats or dogs, Teddy went full wild. The man who faced wars and wilderness didn't stop at normal pets. He brought the forest home. These little companions always find a way to surprise us with how much they understand. President Warren Harding once gambled so hard during a poker game that he lost official White House dishes, like actual government plates. Imagine being so into cards that your next dinner party had to be served on paper plates because you bet the porcelain on a pair of 2s. Back when horses were traffic, Ulysses S. Grant got busted for speeding on horseback. He was going so fast, police fined him $20. That's like a cowboy getting a ticket for riding his steed like it's a race car. Even back then, fast meant trouble. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. President Taft was a big guy, over 300 pounds. One day, he sank into the White House bathtub and got stuck. Really stuck. They had to build him a custom-sized tub after that. So basically, he was the reason presidential bathrooms got an upgrade. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. One time, a fortune cookie company printed lucky numbers that just happened to match the lottery. Over 100 people used them and won. The odds? Crazy. Those cookies didn't just tell fortunes, they made them. Somewhere, a cookie must have whispered, "This one's gonna hit." It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. President Harry Truman's middle name is just S. It doesn't stand for anything, just the letter. His parents couldn't decide between 2 grandfathers' names, so they picked one letter to represent both. The most mysterious middle name in politics is literally just S. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The youngest person to become U.S. president was Theodore Roosevelt. He took office at age 42. Most people are figuring life out in their 40s. Teddy? He was already running the country, wrestling bears and giving speeches like a history book come alive. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Koalas have the chillest sleep schedule ever, up to 22 hours a day. They nap so hard. Their dreams probably have dreams. It's like being a professional sleeper with part-time eucalyptus snacking duties. If there were a sleep Olympics, koalas would win gold without waking up. Australia once released just 2 dozen rabbits into the wild. 6 years later, they had turned into 2 million. That's not breeding. That's a bunny explosion. It was like rabbits found cheat codes and broke the ecosystem by multiplying like math problems gone rogue. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Butterflies taste with their feet, not their mouth, not even their tongue. Their back legs are the taste testers. Every time they land on a leaf, it's like licking it with their heels. High fashion, high flavor. Foot-based food reviews. Only in butterfly world. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The golden orb spider spins webs that are ridiculously strong. One strand, same size as a steel wire, can hold just as much. It's basically spider silk versus metal, and silk wins. So if spiders ever learn how to build bridges, watch out, engineers. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The bumblebee bat is one of Earth's tiniest mammals. It's so small, it weighs less than a penny. Imagine a creature that flutters like a shadow, and you could lose it in your pocket. It's like nature's whisper-sized superhero. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. In a corner of Panama, there's a place where trees grow square. Not round, square. The trunks form rectangles like wooden Legos sticking out of the ground. It's so rare, it's the only known place on Earth like it. Mother Nature clearly has a geometric side. Forget glass slippers. The original Cinderella was Egyptian, and she wore fur slippers. The whole glass thing, that came much later. In the beginning, it was all about cozy, fuzzy footwear fit for a queen. Fairy tales got colder over time. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Those tiny plastic tips on shoelaces, they're called aglets. That's their whole identity. They're like the unsung heroes that keep your laces from unraveling into spaghetti. Without aglets, tying your shoes would be a daily nightmare. So give them a little respect. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Before they were called ties, they were cravats, fancy cloth neck pieces worn by Croatian soldiers. The French saw them and said, "Ooh la la," and the necktie trend began. So next time you suit up, remember, you're dressing like a historic Croatian warrior. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Barbie's full name is Barbara Millicent Roberts. She's not just a doll. She's got a whole secret identity. From toy shelves to fashion runways, she's been silently ruling the world with a middle name that sounds like she owns 5 yachts and a pink convertible. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The first toy ever advertised on TV was Mr. Potato Head in the 1940s. Before that, toys didn't do commercials. But Mr. Potato Head changed the game. He didn't just grow a mustache, he grew into a marketing legend with detachable ears. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. No matter how scrambled a Rubik's Cube gets, it can always be solved in 17 twists or less, if you do it perfectly. That's like untangling chaos with a few flicks of the wrist. Behind every colorful mess is a pattern just waiting to be cracked. The side of a hammer has a name, it's called a cheek, like your face. So next time you're hammering a nail and you turn the tool sideways, just know you're working with its cheek. Tools have body parts too. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. In Athens, if you're driving and look sloppy or smell funky, the cops can take away your license. Seriously, it's written in the law. Clean shirt? Check. Showered? Good. Otherwise, it's no driving for you. Greece does not mess around with hygiene behind the wheel. The Saturn V rocket that took astronauts to the moon, it gobbled up 15 tons of fuel every single second. That's like feeding it a truckload of fire every heartbeat. Space travel isn't just science. It's lighting a giant candle and hoping it doesn't eat the sky. A rocket can fly to the moon faster than a stagecoach could cross England. That's not just speed, that's time travel vibes. While horses clip-clopped for days, modern astronauts sip juice and float in zero gravity. From hay bales to moon dust in one giant leap. It's almost like space itself needed a spotlight, and the moon volunteered to be the stage. Air molecules around you are zipping like rifle bullets, even though everything feels still. At room temperature, the very stuff you breathe is moving at supersonic speeds. So yeah, your living room is secretly a battlefield of tiny, invisible speed demons. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. The lollipop got its name from a real racehorse called Lollipop. This candy on a stick wasn't just tasty, it was a tribute. So every time you unwrap one, you're actually honoring a horse who ran fast enough to earn a sugary legacy. Sweet, huh? It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Maine is the only state in the entire United States with a name that's just one syllable. That's right. While everyone else is taking 2 or 3 beats, Maine keeps it short and sharp. It's the quiet kid in the class who still manages to stand out. The US once printed a $100,000 bill. It wasn't for shopping, just for bank transfers. No one outside a vault ever used it. Imagine pulling that out to buy gum and the cashier just passes out. It's the ultimate flex you'll never see. Before it was called the White House, people called it the President's Palace. But in the early 1900s, someone decided White House had a cleaner, cooler vibe. And just like that, the most famous house in the world got a serious rebrand. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. George Washington was the only US president elected by a unanimous vote. That's right, everybody agreed. No debates, no haters. Just a country full of people saying, yeah, that guy's the one. He wasn't just first, he was the people's absolute favorite. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. John Adams got defeated by his own vice president, Thomas Jefferson. It's like your assistant becoming your boss. The vibe must have been awkward. One day they're teammates. The next day, you're handing over your keys while he moves into your desk. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. New York City's subway tracks stretch for over 800 miles underground. That's longer than the entire state of Texas from east to west. It's like a secret spaghetti monster of steel that moves millions every day, only instead of sauce, it runs on screeching brakes and pizza fumes. Manatees blink in circles. When they close their eyes, their eyelids don't just shut up and down, they spin around like a camera lens. Nature gave them a cinematic blink. Somewhere, a director is jealous of how smooth their eye action is. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Venus is farther from the sun than Mercury, but it's way hotter. Why? Because it's got a super thick atmosphere that traps heat like a mega blanket. It's the ultimate example of looks being deceiving. Cooler location, hotter situation. These little companions always find a way to surprise us with how much they understand. Black holes don't just swallow stars, they sing. Scientists discovered that some black holes vibrate and produce a sound in the key of B flat. You can't hear it with your ears, but space is literally humming. The universe has a bass line, and it's coming from the void. Horses can't vomit, their bodies just don't allow it. So if they eat something bad, they can't toss it back. That's why colic is dangerous for them. Basically, horses are committed to every bite. No takebacks, no you, never mind. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Babies are born with around 300 bones, but as they grow, some fuse together. Adults end up with 206. So yes, you're actually losing bones as you age. But don't worry, you're also gaining bone superpowers in return. More solid, less wiggly. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. When newborn babies cry, no tears come out. That's because their tear ducts aren't fully working yet. For the first few weeks, they're just doing dry drama. They cry like tiny soap opera stars with invisible tears. All emotion, no puddles. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. A single day on Venus is longer than a year on Venus. That means Venus spins so slowly, the sun rises and sets fewer times than it goes around the sun. If you lived there, your birthday would come before tomorrow. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. Squirrels forget where they hide more than half their nuts. They spend all fall preparing snack stashes, then forget where they buried them. The bright side? Those forgotten nuts grow into trees. So, squirrels accidentally plant forests while trying to meal prep. Think about that. Just standing there, quietly saving your breath without asking for anything in return. The first US coin to feature a real person was the penny. Honest Abe's face made history by landing on that shiny little copper circle. Before that, coins just had symbols and numbers. Lincoln's face gave pocket change a personal touch. It might sound simple, but the more you think about it, the wilder it gets. So if your brain's still intact, don't stop now. There's more madness waiting in the next one. You thought this was wild? Click and descend further. I'll meet you there.